All right, everybody. Happy New Year. I think we missed Christmas. Did I say Merry Christmas? I don't know if I did, but Happy New Year. I am Dr. Torri J. I'm super excited to be on here tonight. Okay, I see some freezing up over here on Facebook, so let's make sure everything's rolling right. I'm excited. It is Healing Tuesday. We are finally back after the new year and a little break, and I got refreshed. For those of you who see me on my personal page, you know that I spent a little bit more time on the beach than normal, and I was able to get refreshed. Tonight, we're going to have a pretty different conversation. Oops. Somebody's holding up my Instagram over here calling. So we don't want them to call right now. Although it's an important call, I have to call her back. Um, but we had an awesome time, and tonight we're now going to just continue into 2020 with Healing Tuesday. And I was deep in prayer, and I will tell you, I was deep in prayer. I'm not going to make that something that it's not. I know some people earlier today had a comment about it, and I'm like, I'm who I am. I have the faith that I have, and I'm going to share it, and I'm going to share it in a way that I believe is healing, not judgmental, not degrading, and not shameful. Although we're going to talk about shame tonight, that is going to be one of the pillars that we discuss tonight. Hey, Catherine, how are you? I want to make sure that we are tackling all aspects of fatherlessness. We have covered everything from the cognitive behavior, the relationship stuff, the court stuff, how you co-parent. We've covered a lot of those. So for those of you who missed all of that, I need for you to go back into our Healing Tuesday on our Facebook Lives and to go ahead and watch those. I am integrating, hey, Mariposa, I am integrating Instagram Live into Healing Tuesday. I tried to do Periscope, but my iPad mini was giving me a little too much trouble, and it's a little too high, so I got to figure out how to attach it onto my joystick over here. She said, I'm headed to FB now. Okay, I'll see you in a minute. um, but I wanted you guys to, I know it's Nydia. Now, when I see Mariposa and you just said you're heading there now, I was like, that's Nydia. I remember. How are you, love? So, as we are getting into this, hey, Becca, I missed you guys. Look, I thought about you quite a bit. I did, but I needed this downtime. I needed the time away. I needed time to breathe. I needed time to regroup and reassess. And this is, this is the time of year, or that's the time of year when I'm typically able to do that, and not really before. And now January is shooting me out like a cannon, and I want to be able to, I guess I just really wanted to be able to be refreshed. And coming back coming into 2020, I wanted to be able to provide relevant topics as well as just a refreshed version of myself. So let me introduce myself as people are coming on here. I am Dr. Torri J. And okay, it's coming. Okay, it keeps delaying over here, so y'all got to bear with me. And every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I get onto Facebook Live now, integrating. Um, hey, how are you? I don't know who this. Look, as someone we know says, tell us your government name because I don't know some of these people. Um, GD Holland 213. Tell me what your name is. Put your name in the chat for me. Hey, Nydia, and then Jonathan is here. Hope to meet everyone on January 14th. Well, you'll meet me because I'm one of the speakers. So let me get into some of the stuff. You guys see this? You don't know my story. I wore this specifically because there's a part of my story that I'm going to tell that I don't think I've ever told. Not on here, and maybe I have. Who knows? Hey, Dwayne. See, everybody's popping on. All my people are coming on. I need you guys to know that this is a dialogue. It's an engagement. This is not about me knowing everything. This is not about me sharing everything I know. I need for you to dialogue on here and engage on here because you may have the answer for someone else. You may have the answer that someone's looking for. I may not say it the right way. You may say it the way that they need to hear it. So please know that this is an engaging Facebook Live. It's healing for us all. Some of us are in different stages of our healing, and that's what we understand. Even when I put out here the question of when you hear, and let me start with this. let me start with this, as I'm going to give you guys, I'm going to give away some stuff tonight. We're going to start 2020 off by giving away some stuff. But when you hear the word illegitimate, put in the comment box what you think of. What's the one word you think of? When you hear the word illegitimate, what is the one word that you think of? That's what I want to know tonight. So tonight I am going to give away a few things. I'm going to give away a Fatherless Generation Foundation t-shirt, and I'll give away another book. I know Nydia got the book, and Mari, I believe, is the other young lady who got the book. So wanted to give away another book on how to heal your, oh, she said judgment. Becca said judgment. When you hear the word illegitimate, ooh, mistake, what is the first word that comes to your mind? David said mistake. Okay. All right, Instagram, y'all ain't chiming in. See, this is the part that I gotta, Facebook, they come in. But maybe I've prepped you guys. So this is new to them. So when you hear Instagram, once you chime in, when you hear the word illegitimate, what's the one word that you hear comes to your mind? Linda said unwanted. Lisa said not worthy. Children born of a non-married couple. Wasn't I supposed to get a book too? Were you, Becca? I'm sorry. Inbox me your address. Nydia said doesn't belong. Let's see. She did. She said I'm supposed to get a book too. I got to go back to my emails and see what's going on here.
I think that's right.
You think that's right? That sounds about right. My husband, Becca. No, that's Becca. I sent Nydia her book.
Becca was supposed to get one, I think.
Okay. He's keeping track. See, oh, that's clear now. Oh, Catherine said bastardized. Oh, that's a message. That's a message. I want to talk about this. And I said in my, in my marketing this morning concerning this topic, I said that I want to talk about fatherlessness from a biblical perspective. I'm bringing the Bible to the table, and I'm bringing it to the table because we tend to read the Bible as a book of do's and don'ts, right? Hey, John, I'm glad you joined me. We read them, and you kind of chimed in at the right time. This is John. This is an engaging conversation. We talk, we chat. Uh-oh. My Instagram live went off. You're going to go back. I don't know why it kicked off, but it did. So we're going to go back, but we engage. What's the word? The word is illegitimate. What does it mean when you hear illegitimate? What's the one word that comes to your mind? Some people said mistake. Some people said judgment, not worthy. Children born to a non-married mother, unwanted. Bastardized was another word. Yeah, that's intense. Those are all intense. And I said that I wanted to bring the Bible to the table. And I want to do that because, like I was saying a moment ago, we tend to view the Bible as a book of do's and don'ts. But I see the Bible as more than that. I see the Bible as a blueprint. I see the Bible as stories, in a sense, and giving me stories as to someone who I can relate to, someone who has gone through similar things that I have definitely walked through. And I look at it that way. I allow the Bible to be an onion that, or a book that I go to that kind of peels away some of my layers at times. Yes, but I don't know what the definition of illegitimate means. So you've got to go to look at what they're saying. So I'm going to read the definition for you, John. That's why I asked the question. Like I said, I want people, if you go back through the comments, John is new. If you go back through the comments, John, you're going to see that some people, when I ask the question, when you hear the word illegitimate, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? I don't want you to think about the definition. And I don't want you to get all, wordy. I just want you to think about one word. And one person, Lydia said, you better stop making sense of the Bible. That's what Jesus said over here. I want you to just put one word in there. Someone said doesn't belong, bastardized, mistake, born out of wedlock, born to a non-marital birth. Let me see. Linda said unwanted, right? Those are things that we all think about. So let me go ahead and define it according to some definitions that I looked up. This is my journal, right? So I wrote all of this in my journal. So I am not too proud to tell you Then I got notes for tonight because I want to make sure I stay on point. Um, illegitimate means false. I even asked my husband tonight. He was the first person. He's sometimes my test dummy, um, and not because he's a dummy. He's just sometimes my test dummy in that sense because you said my word is huh. Stop it. John said his word is huh. He's my test dummy because I want to know even what we think in our household about what illegitimate means. Illegitimate to him meant false. When I looked it up in the dictionary, it meant false, contrary to law. We'll get into that. Illegitimate means fake. Where's my other part? I want to make sure. Bastardized, as someone said, born out of wedlock, not genuine. That was another thing that it said. And those were the ones that stood out to me that I wrote down. They stood out for a reason because I'm okay. I'm getting an idea from the commentator. That's fine. They stood out to me because I'm going to talk about how we were conceived, and that's part of the journey. But I want to talk about how we feel. So this conversation about breaking the curse of fatherlessness, and let's talk about illegitimacy. Those of you who were born in a marriage, hey Brian, those of you who are born in a marriage, this does not include you in that sense. Those of you who are born outside of a marriage, non-marital births, I am specifically talking to you tonight. I even posed this question before we came on here, and I'm talking to you because in my time of prayer this morning, there are too many of you who feel this way. There are too many of you who feel out of sorts, out of place, never accepted, isolated. Here's some more words that go along with being illegitimate. Even when I posed the question, if you scroll down and you see the meme that I posted earlier, let me read some of the ones that people put earlier. Charles said fake. Ryan said not real. Ryan also said not legit. Kenneth said government. Becca had come on and said judgment. Kristen said child. Father, mother, child is what Audra said. And one gentleman who broke my heart tonight but hid it, he said me. He said me. Yes, Patrick, he does. Yes, he does. But when he said me, I know that's many of us. If we don't feel it now, we've gone through part of the journey of healing. But if we are in the beginning stages of healing, we feel illegitimate. We feel fake. We feel not genuine. We feel false. We feel we feel a lot of things. One of the things that we feel is shame, and we'll get into this. Nydia said, too many children born into illegitimate marriages. Mm-hmm. What do we call them? She said, I'm hashtag Freddie Cruz. So let's go there. You don't know my story? Yeah. You don't know my story. So let me tell you a little bit about my story. I know this topic very well because I always felt out of sorts and out of place. I knew something was different about me even before the conversation of my father came up. I knew something was very different about me. And then, Barton, I need you to go in the other room, babe. I need him to go in the other room. I love my husband. He's fantastic, but he can't stay in here tonight. Do you guys know why? Nydia, let me tell you why. Nydia and Becca, I'm going to talk to y'all real quick. And Linda, if you're still on here. You know why he got to go in the other room, y'all? He's falling asleep.
Because he works hard.
Because he's tired. I'm not saying that. But what happens when he works hard is he snores. And he's going to be snoring on our Facebook Live, and I can't have that. Even Tokyo laying right here. They was both about to go there. So anyway, I want to be clear. My journey is very much so. See, y'all. Dwayne, laugh out loud. You know my husband. You guys have seen him pop in, pop out. Dwayne said, that sounds like me. Nydia said he snores. Okay, so let me stay on topic tonight because I missed all of you guys and I'm like talking to you guys on the phone. So growing up, I felt illegitimate. I felt out of place. I felt isolated. I felt out of sorts, and I didn't know why. See, we can talk about how we were conceived, and we can make that a thing. I was conceived in the way that Nydia is talking about. I am a product of an adulterous affair. When you're a product of an adulterous affair, there are issues and situations that come up that start before you were even born. They start in the womb. And as they start in the womb, we've discussed this on other Facebook Lives, where I was moving in life as if every mistake that I made meant that I was a mistake. And as I had to deal with that, it really circled back to the time when I was in my mother's womb and she's trying to determine, oh my God, I'm pregnant, right? I've never had the discussion with my mother as to whether or not she was going to abort me. But you got to know that in these moments, those are the types of questions that are being had. So in me saying, you don't know my story, I can tell you that being in that situation, in your home, you don't feel shame or isolation, but in society, you do, right? Society knows you don't have a father, even before we know we don't have a father. So there's this place of shame that comes along with being born in an illegitimate situation. I know society has, looked at being illegitimate as antiquated. It's not something that we talk about. It's not something that we deal with. However, the reason I'm sharing this part of my story and this part of my journey is because times and attitudes may change, but we have to understand that the impact of social stigmas on our life as well do not change. They don't always change. So society as a whole may feel a certain way, but our community doesn't, and how we feel about ourselves doesn't. Do you guys understand that? I know Nydia has chimed in multiple times about feeling certain shames and situations that she has going on. I know I'm not even religious, and I spoke of such quite a predicament. Huh? Okay, you said, what if you don't believe in the concept of marriage? Today's marriage isn't between two people. In the days before and of Christ, marriage was a commitment to one another. Marriage was more than a commitment to one another. Marriage was about having sex with one another. So if we're going to go there, some of y'all married to a whole bunch of folks and y'all ain't divorced them. We can have that conversation if you'd like, but that's a different kind of conversation. And that's on my personal page. That's on my personal page, Brian. Hey, Jarius. Because we can have the conversation of outside of a marriage, and yes, it's a commitment to one another. It's not just a commitment. When you have sex with someone, if we're going to go biblical tonight, that's a covenant that you make with someone. And when you make that covenant with someone, you're bound to them in a soulish way. And like I said a moment ago, if we're going to have that conversation, then we have to deal with the fact that some of you are still married to people that you haven't divorced and you haven't been in a relationship with for years. And that's a problem. But I don't want to have that conversation because that gets way outside of what I want to share on here. See, you laughing out loud. Exactly. I know people don't look at marriage that way. Some of that has to do with, if we're going to talk about fatherlessness, we're going to look at the fathers. That's the parental alienation you've experienced. That's, men are going in a different direction. Kenneth, cut it out. Kenneth is jumping on here, you guys, talking about Dr. Torri for president, because we had a conversation on my private page, my personal page, where he was trying to make me run for president, which I'm not going to do ever. We have to understand that society may look at it in a different way. Yeah, woo, child, Nydia, tell it. Society may look at illegitimacy in a different way, but let me share something with you. In the state of Georgia, they still live by antiquated laws in a sense. So when you have a child out of wedlock or a non-marital birth, men, the mother can't do it, the child can't do it. Men have to legitimize their children. In my studying for this, before the 20th century, it was illegal for an illegitimate child to inherit from the parent, from the father. Can you believe that? It was illegal for the illegitimate child. So now it makes me understand that when you're in Georgia and you legitimize your child, you go through the process of legitimation. The very first page says, and I'm paraphrasing, now Torri J. Evans, minor child, is able to inherit from her father as if she was conceived in wedlock. That is right now in the state of Georgia. That's right now. So we're not talking about antiquated stuff. We're talking about a system that is still happening to this day. Now, let me take Georgia off the hook. I love Georgia's legitimation process. I love their legitimation process because a father who is not married to a mother can go and do a one-stop shop. He gets child legitimated, he gets custody and parenting time, and he gets child support taken care of all in one court. Some of you have that had to bounce around in most every other state. Georgia has it in one-stop shop. You do everything at one time. So I'm gonna take Georgia off the hook when it comes to that. But however, their legitimation, it is called legitimation. It is not called establishing paternity. So since I want to bring this to light that this is not something that's as antiquated as you think. That's what I want to bring to light. I want to bring to light that even though society may feel like it's evolved, and as Brian said earlier, people aren't getting married like they used to, and all of these different things, there's still a stigma. There's stigma, and a feeling associated with it for our children, for us. As I told you a moment ago, I felt out of sorts. I felt like I didn't belong. And once I came into my own and my identity was secure, and that still took a long time, I didn't feel like I had to fit in. I knew that I could fit anywhere I chose to fit in. So I want to give you that information. So let me go back to my journey of even finding out that I was an illegitimate child, even finding out that my father was married, because I did not know that. Hey, Top Dog 75, I have no idea who you are. So if you would put your government name in here so I can know who you are, I would appreciate that. Um, hey, everybody's chiming in. And it is interesting, Linda. It's one of these things that we have to acknowledge once again, and I say it all the time. We have to acknowledge where we've gone, what we've gone through in our trauma in order to heal. We have to acknowledge that how we were conceived may have caused us some scars. And it may have caused us some scars because maybe our parents didn't love each other. Patrick said people don't understand love. Some of us weren't conceived in love, and we have to admit that. Some of us were conceived in lust. I ain't gonna get into all the story, but I need you to know that some of us were conceived in lust, and because of that, that stuff follows us. I asked one time, and Kenneth can remember this. I hope he can remember this. I asked one time, if we look at the stigmas and the negative statistics associated with fatherlessness, and then we look at certain aspects and spiritual things, spirits, do they line up? I want you to think about that because I'm going to go through some things at the end of this conversation that show you very much so how they line up. We can try to separate spirit from natural and all this other stuff and science from this. I'm sorry. I know John was on here a moment ago. Science is biblical. Science is in the Bible. Mental health is in the Bible. You guys need to stop letting people interpret this word for you in a way that is contrary and that is not according to God's purpose. We have to understand that everything was already written in this book. Now, how you interpret that, and I'm giving this specifically for John, how you interpret that or allow someone to interpret that for you, that's different. That's different. I don't allow anybody to interpret the word. This is a sidebar. We've had quite a few tonight, but I'm about to have another one. You never allow somebody to interpret the word of God for you. You can go to church and you can let them read it for you. You can let them tell you what it says. However, that is intended to be a moment of information. They got a revelation and they're not providing you an information. But the second part is you have to go get revelation of that for yourself, because I know when somebody's lying to me at church. And I'd be like, that ain't what God said. That's not in the Bible. Or practices that people do. That's contrary to the word. If you know the word, nobody can lead you astray on it, right? Nobody can get you in a position where you don't know what it says. So that's my position right here. If we're going to talk about breaking curses and surrounding fatherlessness, then we got to go back to the original father. We have to go back to the original one who started all of this. And we can't get hung up on how someone else translated this book to us. It's your job to get into it for yourself. Yes, my faith become a relationship. Your faith is supposed to be a relationship with God. It is not supposed to be far off. It's not supposed to be at a distance. God wants you to come to him. That's why growing up fatherless, I didn't feel it like that. always, I was the girl at church. I wasn't the corny church girl, but I was the girl at church, and I was the girl that dudes knew. If you gonna talk to her, you better come correct. That's what they knew. So in telling my story, let me circle back. In telling my story, I want to tell you something. When I got to know my father, and I reunited with my father, and I call it reunite because people can say, oh, you guys didn't know each other, so you guys are meeting for the first time. No, we met. We met a long time ago. And I want to say we probably met in, when his sperm and my mother's egg hit, we knew each other. We met. And that's how I look at it. I want you to understand how I view things. Doesn't mean you have to view it that way. And I also need you to understand that my journey isn't necessarily your journey, but it's an example and it's a place for me to be vulnerable so that then you can be vulnerable. Maybe not on here, but to somebody else. So when I met my father, I learned a lot about the equation and how it was conceived and why it was this big secret, okay? Because when you are illegitimate, guess what you are? You're a secret. And when you're a secret, guess what that means? Hey, Isaiah, that means that you're a mistake in many ways. You begin to think that you're a mistake. And I don't know, like I said to you, I don't know if I thought about it that way as a child, but I know as an adult, I moved that way. See, sometimes you don't think about it, but it's natural for you to move that way. It's natural it was natural for me. No, this is not religious based. John, you're not listening. It was natural for me to think mistake. It was natural for me to think I'm different. It was natural. I don't know why it was natural, but I think that comes with certain things. I think that comes with being born the way that I was, being conceived the way that I was. There are things that attach themselves to us when we're conceived in conception that I don't think we're ever really clear on. I don't think we ever understand. Hashtag, are you a mistake? That's a good question, Kenneth. Hashtag, are you a mistake? I'm a pause for a minute. Hashtag, are you a mistake? Put 1 in the box if you believe you're a mistake. Put 2 in the box if you know that you are not a mistake. I'm not even going to get there. 1 in the box if you believe you're a mistake. 2 in the box if you don't think you're a mistake at all. Kenneth, stop leading the conversation because identity is coming up. And I want to tell this for a reason. John, you're going to have to go back and listen to the other conversations on Healing Tuesday. Most of them are not religious based or spiritual based, Christian based. Most of them are not. But this is what is decided to do as of 2020 for this particular month. And that's what I need you to know. Linda says no. Okay, lots of no's, but I got a 1 in here. Nydia says no, I'm not a mistake. Nydia, I'm proud of you, girl. Nothing is by mistake. Absolutely not, John. Everything is orchestrated. Y'all know how hard it is to get pregnant? Do y'all know that? It is very difficult to get pregnant. So there's nothing that's a mistake, but sometimes we believe that we are. But 2 now, but 1 from the ages of 4 to 26 years old. Ashley, I appreciate you even knowing that. That means you've done some healing work beforehand. So getting to know my father, going through that process of meeting my father, I learned that he was married. I learned that I have a brother who's 10 days older than me. I learned a lot of different things that made me, it helped me understand why I felt a certain way growing up. It helped me understand several things, and I want to go through some of these things for you. When I was growing up, I always seemed to shrink back into the shadows. I was a very shy young lady, and I know some of you are like, that's not possible. I'm still shy. I still have to kind of work myself. I guess I'm that introvert, extrovert that people are talking about finally. Nope, Jesus didn't ever tell anybody to be Christian. I call myself, Patrick, a believer, to be honest with you. So just kind of as we're going through the spiritual context, I don't want to stay in there, but I'm using, like, I'm a Christian, but I call myself a believer. I try to help people understand right? Because people have their own definitions. So I try to help people understand that. Nydia says, girl, I've always known I was meant to be here. Even after my mama told me she tried to abort me, I knew God wanted me here. Come on, powerful moment right there. Today's society has completely changed how relationship or marriage is. Today's marriage has become a non-existent. Divorces are now granted like candy. I get it. Nonetheless, some of those divorces have to do with we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into because we come from illegitimate or dysfunctional or think situations that we didn't even know existed. That's just the truth of the matter. Patrick says, father sustainer. Yes, father is a sustainer. Um, when you're younger from those circumstances, you don't feel connected. Come on, John. You don't feel connected. You feel completely and totally disconnected. You feel like my brother was born 7.5 years after me. So I'm the oldest in my household. And being the oldest, I knew he had a different father. His father was around. His father was in the house. We talked about his father. We could touch his father. Then there came a time where we couldn't because he didn't live in the home anymore. However, that let me know that I was different. And when I met my father, I can tell you that I not only did I recognize how different I recognized how called I was because I was moving according to DNA that I knew nothing about. The places that I've gone, the things that I've done, the degrees that I've received, the certifications that I've received, they were all falling in line with my father's DNA, not my mother's. They were all falling in line with my dad's, which was crazy for someone I didn't even know. When I talk to you about sitting and being cast in the shadows, that goes into the identity piece that Kenneth was talking about a moment ago, when he was talking about the issue of identity and the issue hashtag where's my identity. I didn't know where my identity came from. People would always say, girl, you look just like your mama, right? And in many ways I do. And we've had this conversation too. But identity is not just your exterior. Identity is your internal. It's the internal parts of you. It's the spiritual parts of you. And so when I'm looking at being illegitimate, I don't have an identity. I don't know where I come from other than my mother. I don't have an understanding of that. That's all I know. But I know there's another piece of me missing. You can feel the piece missing. I need parents to hear this. Your children, single moms, I need you to hear me. Your children know that they're missing something. They don't know what they're missing, but they know they're missing something. I didn't know what I was missing until I knew what I was missing. So you have to understand, although life is happening and you're still moving forward, you still know without question you're missing something, and that's your identity. You recognize that. You also recognize that people look down on you. That's another thing I want you to look at when it comes to being illegitimate. When people know that your parents weren't married, and this is in my small town, I'm going to give you my perspective and some of the studies that I've looked at to have this conversation with you. People look down on you. And then most importantly, what it causes you to do is look down on yourself and question yourself. Ashley says, at 4, I knew I was missing myself because I wasn't with my bio family. Becca said, my mother didn't want me. She told me I was lucky I wasn't born a boy because she had gotten rid of me. She would have gotten rid of me. Needless to say, I didn't feel lucky. I felt unloved. Come on. Today's society, or better known as millennial era, is about who we can sleep with next. Yeah, and they're paying a price for that. Brian, they're paying a price for that. See, we're paying a price for all of that back in the 70s, 80s, 90s. We're paying a price for it. And they're going to, and now they're the manifestation of the price that we paid. We're just repeating these things. We're causing these cycles to have issues. I like that. Don't take offense. It's an era we're in. No, I'm not offended. I'm just telling you, they're going to pay a price for that because there's nothing that you can't sleep with someone and not pay a price for it. And my husband and I had this conversation earlier. Women can't sleep with men and not catch feelings, and men can't sleep with women and not catch feelings. All you guys do, men do it differently. You catch feelings because you're creating a connection, a soulish connection, a soul to soul connection. You are entering someone's sacred space. And that's what men are doing. And women, you're receiving someone's seed. You wonder why you crazy? Because he crazy. You wonder why you off? Because she was off. You didn't even do no. You didn't even investigate some of these people. You slept with them, and now you have children with them, and now you're dealing with you're dealing with the repercussions of that. And the millennials are going to do the very same thing. I get it, Patrick. Love, we have different, when you study Greek mythology and you study the Greek, not Greek mythology, when you study the Greek, the words are definitely different and they go deeper into what love and lust happens to be. It's so true. But many of us don't even have an understanding of just what it means to be in relationship. What does it mean to you guys to be in relationship with someone? She gave you a gift in disguise. You were divine. That, hey, that's what you learn later, John. You don't learn that initially. You don't recognize that. She said, I don't know if anyone has ever realized that there are many adults that come from two-parent homes and long-lasting marriages, come on, with fatherless, toxic mom issues. Absolutely, Nydia. I thought we kind of covered that before. Like you said, too many people stay married without realizing the damage they cause their children, making them feel illegitimate, making them feel like illegitimate children. I'm not here to say that every two-parent home is perfect. But I can tell you there's some things that you'll escape that you won't escape coming from a single parent home. And I'm not talking about the abusive home. I'm not talking about the home where there's drugs involved. I'm talking about just two parents who may just be as screwed up as they possibly could be. Becca, you are not screwed. Cut it out. So let me get into the meat of this. I remember when I'm talking about, when I'm going back to society looking down on you. So if you go back to April, I want to say 22nd, 2012, I was in a national magazine, and it was within the African American community. And so everyone in my town, especially those who knew me, went out to get this article. Some people were pleased and some people were not pleased, because within the article I shared how when I went looking for my father, my mother gave me two names, and how there was one man in my life. I still have a picture somewhere. I'm pretty sure it's in the pack that my mother sent me years ago of all my baby pictures and stuff. And there was one man in my life. So what people did, instead of listen and read the story, they calculated up that there were three men that my mother clearly had sex with within a time frame of conception. Maybe, maybe not. However, there was judgment passed. One of my great aunts, my grandmother's sister, basically was like, that was so disrespectful. Other family members and friends, I remember probably a year or two later, we were sitting at a restaurant and they were talking about it, and they were like, you made your mama look like a hoe. Well, I get to tell my story, and I get to tell my story how I choose to tell my story. And the beautiful part is about that particular situation is, in order to have it published in that magazine, my mother had to confirm the story. My mother had to approve the story to be printed and sold on a national scale. So what happens when you're illegitimate, people try to shame you. It becomes the shame show. It becomes the place where they look down upon you and they want you to think that you're less than, right? It's not what it's not real. Yeah, none of this is taught in our youth, Linda. None of it. We're not taught to we're not taught to think beyond our circumstances. All we can see is our circumstances. We're not taught that although I may be born or conceived this way, I'm not a mistake, and that God created me fearfully and wonderfully made in many different ways and aspects. I'm telling you, it's hard to get pregnant. I know some of y'all don't agree with that, but I'm telling you, you look at it, you try to figure it out. You talk to people who are going through IVF and trying to figure out how to get pregnant. It's hard to get pregnant. It's not as easy as you think. However, some people are more fertile than others. And the other part to this part of the story is, sometimes you time it just right. Sometimes the timing is just right. Yes, these are all just labels, Patrick. So wait, I want to read some of this. My mom's crazy. Her mom's crazy. Her dad was abusive. My dad's toxic. Right. And if you go back to the beginning, Becca, there was somebody who wasn't, but it all started somewhere. Kenneth says mothers are nurturers, fathers are our identity. That's scientifically proven. So under your value and your worth. Yep. So understand your value and your worth. You are one of the single most important key to your children's future, not money, but you, divine design. Absolutely. Fathers are the key to worth, identity, value, self-esteem, all of those things. We've touched on that here before. most don't understand we are more of our father genetically wise than we are our mothers. Absolutely. Nydia, you better act like you know what you're talking about up in here. I'm just kidding. You've been paying attention, girlfriend. We are DNA scientifically. We are more like our fathers than our mothers just because of how the DNA is set up. Okay. Not my mother. She only nurtured her wants and desires. My sisters and I were just tools to get her way. Becca, I don't remember if we talked about this. Was your father alienated? We don't help people understand and use their God-given gifts. We had that conversation. That was a tough one. People were struggling because your God-given gifts are what they are, but your purpose then is birthed out of your pain, and that becomes a challenge for some people because they don't want to go into the pain to get to the purpose, right? We discussed that. That was a challenging conversation. That's why we got into some of the cognitive behavior stuff that we're dealing with, and I think that opened up more people to be open to tapping into that pain. So let's deal with some of this really quickly. I want to go um, into what illegitimacy can cause. I want to tell you there's a feeling that comes with being illegitimate. Along with that feeling comes negative statistics, and negative statistics can also be seen as spirits. So when we look at negative statistics and behavioral disorders, I want to share some of these with you. I remember telling you guys, and I'm utilizing this book for some ministry stuff that I'm doing. But I remember sharing previously with you guys that I was studying about healing and deliverance. It's one of my gifts. It's one of the places that I operate out of. Hey, Michael. Um, and I need for people to understand that when we look at children are more likely to drop out of high school, children are more likely to have behavioral disorders, ADD, ADHD, ODD, all these behavioral disorders. Who are growing up fatherless are more susceptible to being addicted to drugs, or having addictive personalities, to mental health issues, to the list goes on and on and on. I'm going to list some of these spirits that go along with it. One of the things I always say is, and you guys have read this in your statistics, fatherless children are more susceptible to teenage pregnancy. When we look at what Brian has been saying, millennials are literally just having sex. They're not thinking about all the other stuff. They're just having sex, right? There's a reason. They are the manifestation of the original fatherless generation. That's why. So some of the sins or spirits that go along with growing up fatherless or being conceived illegitimately: adultery, masculine women, and feminine men. We're going to have a conversation. Abusers of themselves. Let me see. Lewd emotions, blasphemy, profanity, masturbation, homosexuality, pornography, uncleanliness, perversion, lust, passion, fantasies, mental health issues, molestation, drunkenness, drugs. We've already listed these. Okay, so are we ready for the diseases? Because if we look at ACEs, as some of us have discussed here before, we look at ACEs. No, Robert, I don't. I'm sorry. Robert says, do you think a stepfather can take the place of a father? No, I do not. I think he's a great father figure, but he could never take the place of. The diseases that can come: insanity, heart disease, blindness. I'm trying to make sure I read ones that we're aware of, because some of these are all being sterile. That's one. Alcoholism, diabetes, STDs. Like, it goes through all these different things. I'm telling you this because I need for you to remember to tackle this stuff spiritually as well as naturally. I'm telling you this because we all get so focused on the court systems. We all get so focused on this is what we need to do. I'm tackling this stuff from multiple angles. And the multiple angles will always lead us. They conjoin. The natural and the spiritual conjoin. And you have to see that. You have to see that. I want to see. I don't think biological father, Linda said, I don't think a biological father can replace. Yeah, he can never be replaced. I suppose if I picked a flavor of crazy, I'd pick my dad's flavor because my mom's flavor is scary. Becca is on a roll tonight. Can I ask you, if I got to father my child from ages 1 to 5, is it better for him then if I never if he never knew me from birth? I mean, statistically, does he have a little better of a chance? Ooh, that's a question, John. That is a question. And I'm pausing for a reason. I'm pausing because I always I always have this issue with this question because I ask this question of myself. Is it that I don't have as many issues and it was easier for me to heal because I didn't have a father that I knew and I didn't have a father who was in and out of my life than someone who knew their father and he was absent or he disappeared or and they don't know why he disappeared. Yeah, or I had a father who came some weekends and other weekends he didn't and I didn't know why. Oh, I'm going to have to say no because they're missing you. Yes, Linda, cancer. Yeah, birth to five. John, that's a tough one. I want to say no. I want to say because they're missing you. They remember you, whether mom wants to believe that or not. They're missing you. One of my first memories as a young adult was the time that we went to do the DNA test. I didn't recognize that that's what it was, but what I remember? That was the last day I saw the man that I knew as my father when I was 4 or 5 years old. And I thought about him often. I wondered where he went. I wasn't sure. So I think there's a place where he knows or she knows who you are. But is it better? I don't know if it's a question of better. I think that's what you ask of, or not knowing at all. I think he stands a better chance, but I think he also misses you. And that's what I want you to know. I worry about those things. Yeah, he misses you. And I think you, instead of worrying, I think you need to pray. And that's however you choose to pray. That's one thing you're not going to get from me, even though I'm on here, I'm talking very spiritual and you call it religious, however you want to choose to do that. I'm not here to tell you how to go about connecting with God. I'm not here to go about telling you how to have a relationship. I just want to pinpoint certain aspects of it so that then you choose to do your own connecting. I like how Kenneth just said, John, train a child when he's young and he will not depart from it, even from for 5 years old. Yeah, that's hard. I love my aunties on my father's side. She's so positive and heartbeat and lovable, upbeat and lovable. I'm sorry. Meanwhile, most of the women on my mom's side are just crazy. Y'all keep saying crazy, real loose. I don't know what that means. Can I read something to you guys tonight? This is where I said I'm going to go to the Bible. We're talking about illegitimate children, and there's plenty in the Bible. That's why I use it. So once again, don't get me on a conversation because I told you guys I'm going to use the Bible through this month as I'm sharing with you about illegitimate children. So I'm going to give you guys the scripture. You can look it up if you choose to. But this is the story of Sarah and Hagar and Ishmael. So now Sarah, Abram's wife, had borne him no children, and she had an Egyptian maid servant whose name was Hagar. So Sarah said to Abram, "See now, the Lord has restrained me from bearing children. Please go into my maid. Please go have sex with my maid." Now we can get into whether that was slavery or that was not what she wanted. We can get into all of that later. I want to get into the fact that this woman who Abram goes in to have sex with is not his wife. And now this child is going to be born. Abram gets Hagar pregnant. Hagar then has Ishmael. Ishmael becomes his oldest son. And eventually Sarah, as you continue to read, Sarah has Isaac. Isaac becomes the father or one of the fathers of our I guess our nation, if you look at it that way, however you want to look at that. Some people, we talk about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's how they list the forefathers, right? They don't list Ishmael. Ishmael and his mother are eventually sent off because Ishmael and Isaac are having a rift. They're having an issue. And Sarah ain't feeling how Ishmael's treating her baby. So then she tells her husband, the same one that she told to go have sex with her maidservant, she tells him, put them out. That broke Abram's heart. How many of y'all have seen that same scenario in y'all baby mama, baby daddy situations? Y'all have seen that. It's in the Bible. It's right here in the Bible where the wife, because now she's orchestrated some stuff. And sometimes stuff ain't orchestrated. And he has a child with the woman that he's not married to. And the wife then says, you need to get rid of them. You need to get rid of them. I ain't feeling this. You need to get rid of them. Or how about the new wife shows up and wants the children to get the children from the previous relationship or marriage to go away? How many of you have seen that? It's in the first book of the Bible. You ain't special. You got to read this story to figure out how you need to deal with this situation. That's the point that I need to make to you tonight. That's why I said I'm bringing the Bible on this, because Ratchet TV has nothing on the Bible. It has nothing on the Bible. And some of y'all ain't gonna like that I said that, but I'm telling you the truth. Ratchet TV has nothing on the Bible. If you read it right, that has nothing on the Bible. Here this woman is being told that she got to go after y'all done plotted and put her in a situation where she now has a baby with Abram, who becomes Abraham. Look, Nydia raised her hand. We are not the exception to the rule. We have to find blueprints and ways to navigate. Sarah finds herself in this position where she's putting Sarai, she puts her out, and Hagar and Ishmael go their own way. Abram is heartbroken, as many of you as fathers are heartbroken, and Abram finds himself in prayer. And what happens is God promises to Abram that Ishmael would be a great nation. How many of you know what nation Ishmael became? This is class. This is Bible class. It's not. How many of you know what nation Ishmael became? Ishmael became the Arab nation. There are many different, we can go on tangents on that. You have children illegitimately, they're going to cause you some issues. You have to be careful who you have sex with, and who not only do you have sex with, you create children with, because the children then have to live out this existence that's not fair. So I want to go through a couple of things that illegitimacy can cause. Illegitimacy can cause you to live in fear. Yeah, God doesn't sugarcoat the realities of failures of his people in scripture. Come on, Michael. Not at all. Yes, Kenneth, Islam, Arab nation, whether religious or spiritual, it's just common sense, regardless of what is believed by an individual. It is. Some people call it common sense. Some people, as they say, Brian, common sense just ain't that common. So we have to know. So illegitimacy can cause you to live in fear. Living in fear means that you may have a child who is very shy. I was full of fear as a child. I was so shy. Child, if you took my Vienna sausages, I would hide behind my mother's leg and cry. My Vienna sausages were my whoopee. And even as a young, right before teenage years, it was rough. I was the one who isolated myself. I was the one who lived in shadows. I was that person. That's who I was, because I was full of fear, and I had to come out of myself. I had to connect with who God said I was in order to step out of that fear. So growing up illegitimate, it causes you to live in fear. Growing up illegitimate, it causes you to reject relationships that require you to be vulnerable and transparent. Because number one, you're living in fear. That's what it is. You can try to make it something else, but the reason you don't have the relationship you want, or I remember having this friend, and I'm going to tell this story from, I call it number two. So number one is illegitimacy can cause you to, number one, live in fear. Number two, reject relationships that require vulnerability and transparency, because number one, you fear. I had a best friend who was a guy for 20 years. And I remember him always dating girls that they weren't the kind of woman that we would talk about that he was interested in. And we would always talk about the girl that he liked and that and this and all of these things. And every time he'd end up in a relationship, I'm like, that's nothing like what you said you wanted. And now he's married. And I remember, and that's why he's not my best friend anymore. You can't be best friends with somebody who's married and I'm married. That ain't cool. Not a male. We don't allow that over here, just so you know. not from insecurities. It's just not the right thing to do for us. So what ends up happening is he meets a young lady that he knew from high school going back to his hometown. And the first thing he said to me about her is, she's the type of woman I've always been attracted to, but afraid to approach. You know how everybody got a type? Sometimes y'all be like, that ain't even close to their type. That's what we're talking about. You will walk away from the one that you know is supposed to be um, the person in your life to go to somebody who's more comfortable, who's easier to get to, and maybe just easy. How about that? That may be just why you go there. So that's number two. Number three is illegitimacy can cause you to live in trauma. Many of us have lived in dysfunction and trauma and crazy mamas and dads on drugs and abusive fathers and abusive mothers because our parents didn't heal from their trauma and their wound and their illegitimacy. They didn't heal from it. And so now it's carried over into our generation and into our lives. And number four, illegitimacy can cause you to lock yourself in isolation. That's that introvert, right? I'm an introvert extrovert, but that's just the truth of the matter of who I am because I grew up very isolated. I was the girl, let me tell you how bad I was. I was the girl, remember how everybody went outside to play? Oh no. My mother always brought a bag of books and stuff for me to do. And when the parents tried to send everybody outside, because that was a rule in most of the Black households that we went into, everybody got to go outside. And my mother was like, no, leave Torri alone. Tori's going over there. She got her books, she got her stuff. The one time I remember going outside and playing with the kids, let me show y'all what happened to me. Let me see. Can you see it? Can you see that? There is a scar on my arm for life. I actually there it is. I actually was running and I hit a corner a little too hard and cut my arm on a fence that didn't have the top bar on it, which would keep me from getting cut. Child, that's when I knew I needed to go sit down. So I'm sharing that with you to say, those are the things that happen when you are, and I see Smile Express over here. She's like, that's me. And I see a yes from Daddy's Girl Ministry over here. Hey, Connie. I know who that is. And so I'm sharing that with you. You lock yourself in isolation because of your illegitimacy. So let me give you, I got 3 points how you break the curse of your illegitimacy. I'm not going to talk to you about breaking the curse or put the comment up here and not tell you how to do it. You break the curse by sharing your truth. You have to be vulnerable in the right relationships. We've talked about this. I remember sharing when we were talking about boundaries. Some people share with the wrong people. Some people share with the wrong men and wrong women their vulnerabilities. Some people are transparent with the wrong people. And so you've now learned, on top of what happened in your illegitimacy of growing up, you now have learned that if I share and I'm vulnerable, then somebody's going to use it against me. They're going to use it and it's going to be an advantage some way, somehow. You got to share those things in the right situation with boundaries, with the right person. You don't share on the first date all of your vulnerabilities. Oh, I come from a fatherless household. You know what a man hears when you say all of that? Target, easy pickings. You are the low-hanging fruit because now you're sharing your brokenness and your dysfunction way too soon. You have to make sure that this person is able to receive that information. You have to make sure that this person is able to receive you sharing your truth. How do you break the curse of illegitimacy? Number one, number one is supposed to be remove the mask. No more pretending. No more pretending that you weren't born in a situation that was dysfunctional. There's no more pretending that you weren't born in a situation that wasn't ideal in your natural mind. Because like we said earlier, one person said, I knew I was missing something. Somebody said it earlier. I knew at 4 I was missing a piece of me. So that's not something that's taught to you. That's innate. That's natural. And we can say, oh, these things are taught and the morals and principles are taught. No, I feel like morals and principles, some of the stuff we're born with, it's innate. It's a natural thing to know you're supposed to have a mother and father. It's a natural thing to know that you came here from a mother and father. So we can try to switch this up and make it something that it's not, but you got to remove the masks in order to move forward And to break the curse of your illegitimacy, you have to remove the mask. No more pretending that you didn't come from that situation. How you tell your story is, I come from this, but this is where I am now. See, I was born a fatherless child. I was born from an adulterous affair, but now I'm the founder and CEO of the Fatherless Generation Foundation, who now found her purpose out of her pain and now has reunited over 3,200 fatherless children. That's a different take on being born illegitimate. That's a different take on it. But if you're still living in the lie, if you're still holding up the mask and nobody can see past the mask, then you're not going to attract genuine people. Let me tell you that too. If you live behind a mask and you're pretending and you're faking the funk, trust me when I say you're going to meet people who fake the funk and who pretend. So let me go here to you, John, since hopefully John's still on here. John, that's scriptural, but that's also the law of attraction. People have utilized that outside of biblical principles. People have utilized that from The Secret. If you scared, you scared. I got you. Go to church. We have to. First step is to come out of the denial into the light of freedom. Michael, you better say that way. I got to say it in a different way because everybody ain't there. But I like how you said that. Guessing I'm in the isolation phase. Been 7 years going on 8. Yeah, because you're still afraid. You're still afraid. But you own that part of your truth, and it's okay. It's okay. Because now that you've owned that part of your truth, now you can say, okay, I'm in isolation, but I got to get past that isolation. So number 1 is, how do you break the curse of illegitimacy? Remove the mask. Number 2, share your truth. And I talked about sharing that from a vulnerable and transparent place, but with boundaries. And number 3, it's time for you to accept yourself. When you take off the mask, you share your truth, you can accept who you are and how you got here and know without a shadow of a doubt it's not from a mistake. Ishmael clearly didn't live from a place of thinking he was a mistake. He became a great nation. He became a great nation. I'm sure, because I saw it when you read the Bible, you can see that Ishmael is a very angry young man because he knows he's illegitimate. Read it. Go to Genesis 16 and read up to chapter 18. You will see that Ishmael is very clear. It's very clear to him that he's illegitimate. That's why he's angry. That's why he's picking on Isaac. Y'all got children, blended families, and y'all got some children who keep going over here and there, and they go between different households, and then all of a sudden they come to your house, and there's one child who's messing with the other child. You might want to figure out what's going on with them. They may feel illegitimate. They may feel like they don't belong, and that's why they're acting out. You're only as sick as your secrets. Michael on here sharing gems. Linda says, how you tell your story matters. I was raised by a single mom, and I was raised without my father. Are 2 totally different stories. Absolutely. They're 2 totally different stories. We have to share our stories. Our stories create freedom. And as you're sharing your story, people will try to shame you. You can't shame Torri J. Evans Barton anymore. You can't shame me. You can't shame me into saying, oh, I shouldn't have done that Jet magazine article. You can't shame me into not writing another book. And I can tell you, I have family members right now who will try to shame me. Let's go back to the magazine article that came out. And this was the first thing ever written on me. There's been many more since then. My cousin, my mother's a twin. My cousin, who was my mother's twin sister's oldest son, called me and told me he would destroy everything I had done because I made his auntie look like a hoe. I cussed him out real good, blanked out. I don't remember everything I said, and then I hung up the phone on him. He told everybody. He was like, I didn't even know Torri knew them words. I didn't. I did, but I didn't. There is always going to be somebody who tries to shame you, and what they're trying to do is put the secret in the closet because they got the same doggone secret. And if you tell your secret, then they feel like they're exposed. Never allow somebody to shame you into secrecy. Never. You tell your story. You tell your story from the place where it's positive. And I know, because I can look at some people that I see on here on Instagram that I know, and I've heard them share their stories. I've heard Linda share her story. You share your story from the journey, right? From where you've come from into where you are now. You don't go through the rabbit hole and just kind of just, oh, I was born in a fatherless family and, and I was just, I've gone through this and I've been on drugs and, and just, yeah. Nobody wants to hear that story. So that means that some of you got another step to take in order to come out of that dark place where you just, my father wasn't there. And, or for some of you dads, I ain't been in my child's life and I ain't been able to see my child for 15 years and it's been a long time and it's been hurtful. No, nobody wants to hear that story. Hashtag church enough to pray for you. Had enough to swing on you too. I don't even know where Kenneth is coming up with these things. Yeah, Charles, misery loves company. Courtesy of Celebrate Recovery, my friend. All right, I hear you. See, Michael's been through some stuff. That's why he got some gems. God never wastes pain. What is meant for your harm is turned around for your good. You share it from a good place. You share it from a place of overcoming and acceptance. Because the moment you take the step into accepting yourself, nobody could ever shame you again. And I want you to know that shame is the number one issue that you're going to deal with when you're growing up illegitimate. That's the number one thing. So I hope that you guys got some stuff tonight. I hope that I poured out into you enough to help you move towards breaking the curse of feeling illegitimate. Because as we said earlier, John pointed it out, I know you're born from a situation that the world calls illegitimate, but there are no illegitimate children in God. I don't believe that. We must stop and be willing to listen. Too many today will just blow you off. That's true. And you can't blow something off like this. You can't blow off the truth of how you got to where you are and think that you're just going to move to the next phase. It doesn't work like that. You can move to the next phase, but I promise you a phase after or 2 phases after, you got to go back. Jeremiah 29. Kenneth, you're smarter than I thought. All right, Kenneth. Kenneth knows scripture, y'all. I hope and pray as we get into this conversation, and John, I hope you're still on here, that you see how I'm going to use the Bible. I want to make sense out of some of these stories for you to let you know that I believe God was showing you you're not alone in these stories, these scriptures. He's showing you you're not alone, and he's showing you how to get out of them. He's showing you what not to do, to be honest with you, but unfortunately some of you have already done it. Deuteronomy 23:2. It doesn't say that you can't go to heaven. It says that you can't be in the assembly of God. However, there's a prayer and there's things that you can do to break that curse. And that's called the bastard curse. I didn't get into that tonight. David knows some stuff that I wasn't ready to share. It's ending on Instagram. Oh, share the story. Instagram only goes 1 hour exactly. It says that we cannot be in the assembly of God, David. It's not that we can't go to heaven. See, that's that interpretation. And you got to know what the assembly is. The assembly is the government. The assembly is how land and all this stuff is distributed and how Israel is ruled. You can't be one of the rulers until that curse is broken. So David, yes, I do know about that. David just tried to take that. I ain't ready to share that part with you guys yet because some people are going to get offended. And I don't want people to be offended. I'm going to show you something. Let me see. Where is it? I'm showing this to David for a reason. This is a particular book. So this is what David is talking about. I'm going to show you guys right here, if you can see it. It's called The Curse of the Bastard, and it's Deuteronomy 23:2. I'll read it to you just since he said it. A person begotten out of wedlock shall not enter into the assembly of the Lord. Even until his 10th generation shall his descendants not enter into the congregation of the Lord. Once you study that out, that is not heaven. That is not heaven. God is not, no, that's not what he said. So I want to say that since he brought it up, I want to put it out there. David, hopefully that brings you a little information, but that's not what that means. Well, I'm getting to learn Bible stories tonight. I've never read it. See? John, I told you, this is not about religion. This is about, I'm going to take Ratchet TV out your mind and I'm going to make you look at the Bible in a totally different way. You're going to be like, them people crazy. How we say all of our parents are crazy. Who has another question or any questions before we get off of here? I'm sure the parables have great teachings. They do. And you can call it a parable, you can call it scripture, you can call it whatever you choose to call it. I believe that these are real people. They truly existed and they get to teach me something. That's what they get to do. They're not, it's not from a place of judgment. It's not from a place of trying to shame me. It's from a place of sharing with me how I should live. Because I don't want to repeat what they did. I don't want some of this stuff. Y'all act like these people in the Bible are perfect. That's what cracks me up. They only read certain stories to y'all. And when they read those certain stories, y'all think the people in the Bible are perfect. And they're not perfect. The people in the Bible have, God adopts his children into his own family, royalty. Come on. So the people in the Bible have a lot of issues. A lot. And a lot of them are illegitimate, fatherless in a different sense, right? They have issues with murder and homosexuality and all types of stuff. They have issues having conversations around it. They have women who try to force men to do things that they didn't want to do. They have women who try to rule over their husbands and show them, basically control and manipulate the whole situation. I'm telling you, it's a great movie. You should read it. You should read it. So I am going to end tonight, or for the religious, we are all fighting our own demons, but we are all fighting the same devil. That's the message right there, Brian. And I don't call myself religious. I call myself spiritual. I call myself a believer. Fantasy or not, David, you can call it fantasy if you'd like. And it's just like any other book that you read. I don't know why people have such an issue with the Bible, but they can read all these other books. Fantasy or not, this is something that I'm going to talk about, and these are stories and scriptures that I'm going to read from during this next month. I'm thankful for my past because it made me who I am today, and I'm strong, and I have an amazing ability to read people. How about we end it on that positive note? That's how you share your story. That's how you share it. David was an adulterer. Paul was a murderer. Nobody in the Bible wasn't the worst of the worst that were turned into good things. Only one was without sin. That's the beauty. No, and you have to really interpret it. Yeah, John, this is all about how you look. I said it earlier, I think before you came on. I am not here to tell you how to interpret this. I'm here to share what I know and what I've read. It's your job to go into it and read it for yourself. It's your job to look at it. It's not my job to do that. Because I think people will lead you astray many times. I think people will lead you astray by using something such as the Bible to control, manipulate, and try to get you to do what they want you to do. And I've been reading the Bible since I was a teenager. I've read this thing at least 6, 7 times from cover to cover. And so I am clear on what it says to me. I don't need to know what it says to the priest or the pastor. That's great on Sunday. We go shout, sing songs, and you tell me what you got. That's a new level of revelation. But it doesn't mean that I cling to that more than I cling to what I know for myself. And I love what Becca said, and that's where I want to end this tonight. You guys are awesome. I appreciate your engagement. I appreciate your love. And so tonight, I pray that you break the curses of your illegitimacy within your fatherlessness by, number 1, removing the mask. Number 2, got to make sure I say this right. Share your truth. And number 3, by accepting yourself. I believe that you guys have the ability to do so. I know that you guys are walking out this healing in the best way you know possible. And as I say all the time, go get a therapist. I am not your therapist. I'm your coach. And I will coach you to the healthy place. I will share my stories and my journey to the best of my ability so that you will know how someone else came out and overcame and came through. But other than that, I'm Dr. Torri J, and it's Healing Tuesday, and I look forward to seeing you guys next Tuesday. I will start this Thursday night. Is it Thursday? No, it's not Thursday night. I have to look at the time, but I think it's Thursday at 1. I think it's Thursday afternoon. I'm starting Help is on the Way, so we will talk about father's rights things. I will have people come on, and we will talk about everything from, I have a friend who's a judge who's going to come on. She's going to talk about why she ruled the way she ruled in family court. That's an eye opener. How many of y'all have seen a judge on a Facebook Live, share that part of the journey. I have other friends who are economists who are going to talk about child support and things of that nature. We finally got everything together. And then I'm going to launch my podcast at the end of this month. I'm going to Atlanta next week and I'm going to record 5 episodes of my podcast. And it's called I've Got Daddy Issues. And I'm going to interview some amazing people who have daddy issues, but they were able to break the curse of their daddy issues and have successful life, have mental health, healthy mental health aspects. I don't even know how to say that, or healthy mentality. They were able to break out of all of the fogginess that some of us have still. I still ain't broke out of it, but nonetheless, I love you too, Kenneth. I will talk to you guys later because I could talk to you all night and I can't be on here all night. So I love you and I will see you next Tuesday. All right. And oh, wait, I want to send a t-shirt to John because John, I appreciate you coming on. I know that we had a little talk earlier. And John, send me your address so I can send me your address and your size so that I can send you a Fatherless Generation Foundation t-shirt. How about that? So I'll talk to you guys later. And that's John Coso, I think is how you say your last name. So I'll talk to you guys later. All right. Bye-bye.